Hi, I'm Greg LeMond, America's first Tour de France champion and two-time world champion. When I first started cycling in the 1970s, I didn't know anything about bike racing, let alone track racing. Fortunately, I had a great-grandmother that was still alive. She had a cousin that was a manager of six-day bike racers back in the glory days of track racing. The trainer was Fred Boulevant. He came from Newark, New Jersey, home of the Newark Velodrome. He first made a name for himself when he trained a local rider who won the 1912 World Amateur Sprint title in Newark. Today, the center stage of professional bicycle racing is the Tour de France. It came as a surprise to me to learn that it began in 1903 as a six-day bicycle road race. The real money in cycling and in American sports was in six-day bicycle races. They were the original multi-day cycling competitions. Sixes were two-rider team races featuring nonstop racing for 6 days and nights straight. They were demanding athletic events of speed, strength, and great bike handling. In cities across the United States, they were tremendously popular. This documentary looks back at those six-day races and the golden age of sport. Six-day races paid athletes a tremendous amount of money and entertained thousands of people. I hope you enjoy this story as much as I do.
It all started in the 1870s with the introduction of high-wheel bicycles with hard rubber tires. Today, those high-wheelers look awkward, but for the first time in history, they liberated people from having to hitch or saddle a horse to go anywhere. Sixes started as an exhibition on a small flat track in a square room in 1875 in Birmingham, England. A handful of riders pedaled 12 hours a day, Monday through Saturday, stopping only for Sunday. In 1879, sixes crossed the Atlantic. Charles Tarrant of Paris and two Englishmen, Billy Cann and Harry Etherington, put on exhibitions up to 6 hours a day on roller skating rinks in Chicago and Boston. Thousands of people eagerly paid to watch these pioneer professional athletes ride on two wheels.
There was a six-day that was held in Minneapolis in 1887.
This was the first competitive six-day in the United States, run on the indoor Washington roller skating rink. It drew two men, winner New Yorker Albert Schock and William Senator Morgan of North Carolina, and the pioneer woman athlete Louise Armando of Montreal. New York promoters introduced Go As You Please contest of 6 days in October 1891 in the newly opened Madison Square Garden.
The organizer, the promoter, hired Madison Square Garden to run an endurance bike race, and he apparently wanted to run the most extravagant endurance cycling event that had ever been run, but by law it was prohibited to race on Sunday because of the Sabbath laws in those days, so he could only go 6 days long, and that's how it started.
The building was so massive it contained a flat wooden oval 10 laps to the mile and seating for 8,000 spectators.
Back then it was just go as you please and sleep as you will. So a rider, the longer he could stay awake, the more distance he could make, and that was the emphasis of that.
Plugger Bill Martin of Lowell, Massachusetts, left 13 opponents as he pedaled 1,446 miles in 142 hours. He won $2,000, which is worth 4 years of wages for the average worker. Soon the modern bicycle with the diamond frame, both wheels the same size, and pneumatic tires supplanted the high-wheelers. Modern bicycles led the way for tracks with steeper banking on the turns and shorter on the straights that helped riders increase speed and distance. Charles Miller of Chicago emerged as the undisputed king of one-man sixes. In the Garden's 1898 six-day, 29 pros started. Most dropped out, but Miller endured to pedal 2,105 miles and win. He even took a half-hour break to marry his fiancée. However, New York legislators were inundated with complaints from spectators. They watched cyclists fall asleep on their machines and then topple over without waking up.
The New York State Legislature passed a law prohibiting any athlete from competing more than 12 hours a day.
Madison Square Garden's impresario Billy Brady expressed outrage at the new law. He said, "I've never been able to understand why Theodore Roosevelt, then the governor of New York, ever signed that bill since he was both intelligent and a lover of the sport. But there it was."
When Brady was told, hey, you can no longer hold individual six-day races, he thought, oh, a great opportunity. We'll have two-rider teams. And thus he created, beginning in 1899, the format of the two-rider six-day event. And this is the format that's still used today, and because they were started in Madison Square Garden, and because of Madison Square Garden's fame as a sports and entertainment center, the 6 days after that became known as Madison's.